President Biden wrapping up his European trip. He's taking questions from reporters, and not just about the G7 and NATO summit's focus on China.
Correct. Midway through yesterday's new conference, Biden veered from global issues and essentially claimed that European leaders prefer him to President Trump. Watch.
The leaders I'm dealing with in NATO and the G7 are leaders who know our recent history, know generically the character of the American people, and know where the vast center of the public stands. I think they, like I do, believe the American people are not going to sustain that kind of behavior. I think it is a shock and surprise that what's happened in terms of the consequence of President Trump's phony populism.
From his remarks about Trump's, quote, phony populism, Biden went on to dismiss the GOP. He dismissed Trump supporters as well.
For a closer look, we want to bring back in our panelists for the hour, Joe Collins, Kelly Hyman, Rich Valdez. Okay, a lot of people wondering maybe what the president is referring to specifically about Donald Trump's, what he describes as phony populism there. Kelly Hyman, I'll go to you to address that part of the question, and then also if it's appropriate for the American president to be criticizing American at this point on the world stage. Your thoughts, Kelly?
Well, first, I don't think that Biden, as an American, is criticizing Americans. Secondly, we have to look at a recent Gallup poll, and according to a recent Gallup poll, 49% of Americans are Democratic or Democratic leaning, while 40% are Republican or Republican leaning.
Well, okay. Well, that's good. Rich, phony, if you call something phony, is that critical?
Absolutely. I mean, it's no better criticism than saying these are fake, phony, fraud populists. Now, this is no defense of populism, but I think if you just look at the numbers, it makes sense to me. 47 years in Congress, he didn't do a whole lot, but he had lots of friends like Mitch McConnell, like others that were really soft on issues that mattered to most Americans. So I think this movement's something that's been brewing for a long time. So when Joe Biden says the Republican Party's weak, it's not what it was, he's right. It's not what it was. It's been invigorated. It's a new Trumpian party. If you look at the last 3 months of fundraising, it's one record-breaking month after another. So the NRCC sitting on $42 million. They had their biggest month just this past month. Like Jay-Z said, men and women lie, but numbers don't.
Joe Collins, when you're watching the president, again, on this international stage, criticizing a political party within the United States, at a time when perhaps you would want to be the best advocate for America on the international stage. How does that differ from the previous administration's America First approach?
Well, I think one of the biggest things that we have to understand is when you are the president of the United States, the last thing you should be doing is talking about the former president. It makes it seem as if you hadn't got over the last election, and that's what we need to get past. I mean, like Joe Biden's the president right now. President Trump was the president for the previous 4 years. And right now, we need to be talking about moving forward, not talking about who's phony and who's not, especially not talking about the Republican Party, because clearly the Republican Party is growing and we have a number of blacks and Latinos and Asians and young people joining the Republican Party to be able to fight the rhetoric that Joe Biden has been speaking. I think this is what we like to call microaggression. But on another note, instead of talking about the Republican Party, Joe Biden needs to be talking about why his son is calling his white attorney the N-word. He needs to be talking about how come we haven't dealt with the border crisis, if you want to be specific. But if you don't want to get in a back and forth between the Republican Party and what the Biden administration has not been doing, let's talk about what the world can do to come together and move forward in a manner that's productive and beneficial for all people.
Let's get the context back here. Let's play this sound. This is what he said about the Republican Party and Trump supporters.
The Republican Party is vastly diminished in numbers. The leadership of the Republican Party is fractured, and the Trump wing of the party is the bulk of the party, but it makes up a significant minority of the American people.
Oh, that would be 74 million people at last check. Kelly Hyman, look, as a Democratic strategist, I want to know your thoughts on it, but also, again, taking domestic politics, things that are happening here, and bringing them over there, is that appropriate?
Well, I think it's appropriate for us to discuss about what's going on in America. And as I said before, according to that recent Gallup poll, that their majority of people are Democrat leading, 49% compared to Republican. But I think it's important for us to work together as a country and remember, whether you're Republican, Democrat, or independent, we are all Americans and work together and work for what's best for Americans.
Rich Valdez, have you seen signs from the Biden administration that would support that idea, that there's an effort to work across the aisle?
Yeah, I hear this word unity get thrown around a lot, but I've never seen it come into play, including when he goes to Brussels and he starts saying things like, well, they're a small minority and this and that. I mean, the fact that President Trump was reelected by the biggest numbers that any sitting president had been reelected by, and for him to say just a few months ago, to say that that is a slim minority, I mean, I think this is just buffoonery at best and really sheer ineptitude at worst.
All right. Got to leave it at that. Rich Valdez, Joe Collins, Kelly Hyman, our panelists for this hour. Thank you all.
All right, for a quick look at what is trending on social media right now, Amanda Brilhanti is joining us live. Hey, Amanda.